It was during dinner at State House when the horror began. President Kenneth Kaunda sat at the head of his grand dining table, his ministers and advisers eating beside him. The warm glow of candlelight flickered against the polished mahogany, and the conversation was tense, whispers of Adamson Mushala's rebellion spreading like wildfire. Then, the room fell silent. The air turned cold. The weight of something unseen pressed against their chest. And when Kaunda looked up, he saw him. Sitting across the table, with an eerie calmness, was Adamson Mushala himself. The ministers froze in terror, some clutching their spoons mid-air. Kaunda's hands trembled as he gripped the table. Mushala smiled. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, he vanished. At first, they thought it was hallucination, paranoia, a trick of the mind. But it happened again. And again. Each time Kaunda sat to eat, Mushala would manifest, staring at him from across the table. Unshaken, unafraid. Watching. Waiting. Security at State House was tripled. Every inch of the palace was searched, but no one could explain how a man hiding in the forest of northwestern Zambia could appear in the most heavily guarded building in the nation and disappear without a trace. The whispers began. The man who could not die. Adamson Mushala was once a loyal warrior of Zambia's independence movement. He had trained in China, preparing for war against the British colonial rulers. But when Zambia won its freedom in 1964, Mushala expected to be rewarded. He asked Kaunda for one thing, to be Minister of Tourism and Wildlife. Kaunda refused. That betrayal burned deep into Mushala's soul. Feeling abandoned and overlooked, he left Zambia and traveled to Southwest Africa, now Namibia, where he trained under South African forces. He learned the art of guerrilla warfare, mastered survival tactics, and gained a reputation for being a ghost in the battlefield. By the time he returned in 1975, he was no longer a patriot. He was a rebel, a warlord, a phantom in the night. The reign of fear. Mushala launched a brutal rebellion against Kaunda's one-party rule. His men moved like shadows through the forest of northwestern province, striking with deadly precision. But what terrified people the most were the stories. Soldiers sent to hunt Mushala returned broken, whispering that he could not be shot, that bullets passed through him like air. Villagers swore that he could vanish into thin air, appearing miles away in the blink of an eye. Others claimed he walked through walls, that he could summon wild animals to fight for him, that he had been given dark powers by Angolan and Namibian witch doctors. Even Kaunda himself, the man ruling Zambia with an iron grip, feared him. The war of magic. Realizing that guns and soldiers were useless, Kaunda turned to witch doctors. It is said that the president summoned the most powerful shamans in Zambia, ordering them to break Mushala's supernatural protection. But every spell, every ritual, failed. Mushala continued to haunt the forest, raid government strongholds, and, most chillingly, appear at State House during mealtimes, staring at Kaunda from across the table before vanishing into nothing. Kaunda knew he was not just fighting a man. He was fighting a legend. A force beyond death. The final bullet, or was it? For 7 years, Mushala remained untouchable. Until 1982. Deep in the forest of northwestern province, the government launched one final ambush. The soldiers fired, and for the first time, a bullet struck him. Straight through the eye. Some say it was the only part of his body not protected by his magic. His body was dragged to Solwezi General Hospital and put on display for the public to see. The government wanted the world to believe Mushala was dead. The unfinished story. But was he really dead? Many refused to believe it. Some swore the body was not truly his, that the government had killed someone else in his place. Others said his spirit still lingers, wandering the forest, waiting for his revenge. And even now, on certain nights, some claim that State House is still haunted by his presence. That when a president sits to eat in silence, a shadow briefly appears at the other end of the table, watching. Waiting. Because some men die and are forgotten. But others, they become something more. A phantom. A curse. A legend that will never fade.